Welcome to Tech Leaders Today with your host, Cassie Crossley. All comments, views, and opinions expressed on this show are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers. Now here's Cassie Crossley.
Hello and welcome to Tech Leaders Today. I'm here with Priyanka Komala. She is the technology leader for the U.S. National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine. Priyanka is a Rising Star finalist for the 18th Annual Women in Technology Leadership Awards. At age 5, she gave an impromptu speech about an aeroplane which catapulted her into becoming the distinguished speaker she is today. At the U.S. National Academy of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, she is responsible for creating and delivering the web strategy and future technological direction for a $30 million division. Welcome, Priyanka.
Thanks, Cassie. It's good to be on your show.
Thank you so much for being here. Tell me a little bit more about what you do and what led you into technology.
Absolutely, Cassie. I work at the intersection of science and technology, and that seems to be a very enlightening field in the 21st century. And in terms of what led me into this field, probably I should share a very personal story about my journey for the last few years. I grew up in India by the second longest beach in the world in a city called Chennai, Madras, in the southern part of India. And my parents, at the age of, I still remember it was in the early 2000s when I was 14, 15 years old, when computers started showing up as a desktop home computer, they invested all their earnings in bringing a computer home. And that's how I got interested in computer science and technology. And I strongly believe it's that what has led me to be who I am today.
That's an amazing story. There are so many females, women, teenage girls that don't have the opportunity that you were given. And that led you into what is really a high-level position in the technology field. I know that led you to a number of other organizations that you're working with so that you can give other girls opportunities to move into technology and STEAM or STEM, whichever you want to call it. What are you doing today in all those different groups? Because it's really powerful, all the work that you are doing.
So let's talk a little bit about what's happening today, Cassie. If you look at STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, there are two ways in which you can classify STEM. You have STEM broad jobs, which require just the STEM concepts, but not actually a bachelor's degree in STEM. And then the second aspect is you have STEM narrow jobs, which is basically skills that are focused on professional research and development scientists and engineers. And a recent report from the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine says that STEM narrow jobs are actually outnumbering by a huge order of magnitude. And this report is called Promising Practices for Strengthening the Regional STEM Workforce Development Ecosystem. STEM career doesn't have to be a very traditional linear path. There are a lot of opportunities today for men and women in STEM to embrace STEM concepts and create wonderful careers for themselves. Because technology is now ingrained in several aspects. It's not just one specific industry. And as I kept thinking about what can we do to give back to the community, I started getting a lot of requests from my friends in my own personal network saying, hey, we need more role models in STEM. We need somebody who's more accessible for these young talents to understand that a career in STEM is possible and you don't have to look a certain way. You don't have to act in a certain way. And that got me thinking as to what can we do to give back to the community. And slowly I started meeting with these different groups like Girls in Technology, Women in Technology, Tech Bridge Girls, which are all focused about how do we bring in more talent into the STEM field at the grassroots level. And as I kept talking with these young, bright, talented kids, they would come back to me after the event and they would say, hey, Priyanka, it was so wonderful to hear your career experience, your personal life story, your journey from a different country to another country, which you have chosen as your home for education. And that gives me immense pleasure, seeing that we always keep talking about there's lack of talent in the STEM at a certain level. But how about we look at it at the fundamental grassroots level and focus on how do we bring more talent at a younger age into STEM? So that's been the reason why I strongly believe about championing for young talent in STEM.
I agree completely with your desire to bring this into the hands of pretty much anyone. And it doesn't even have to be girls or boys, but depending on the economic conditions, I live in an area in California where not everybody has a computer at home, even today, which is pretty amazing. I'm not in Silicon Valley where everybody has probably 3 or 4 and 4 iPads at home. What are you finding? I know that you're working with some of the groups in the DC area. Are you working with students at all economic levels?
Yes, and I strongly believe, as you rightly pointed out, that depending on the economic levels of the society, we want to ensure that diversity happens across different stratas of the society. At the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, we have an outreach arm, which is called the Karshland Science Museum, that's focused on helping lay people understand what the research is about. So it's more about how do we translate science into our daily life. And as we bring along these different groups through the Karshland Science Museum, we've seen a lot of people who come from the lower stratas of society who don't have the same privileges, the same opportunities as we have in terms of accessibilities to various technologies, or even the awareness that such career paths exist in STEM. I feel that if we are unable to tap into that level of talent, we would be unable to fulfill the STEM needs for this country. And let me give you a recent statistics from the Bureau of Labor, which says that STEM graduate projections are going to outpace the overall US job growth by about 4 percentage points between 2012 and 2022. So I think in the next 5 years, it's upon us, emerging leaders in technology and seasoned leaders in technology and STEM, to elevate the talent at the grassroots level, no matter what your economic levels are, and bring the best and the brightest so we can continue to position this nation as one of the best innovative countries in this world.
I have both men and women listening to the podcast every day. What do you suggest as technology leaders that they do to participate in these kind of activities and really grow this next generation?
Fostering an ecosystem is really essential, Cassie, and this is based on my personal experience. When I look at how do I help build a brand for myself, one crucial aspect of it is how do I elevate other men and women as I grow up, as I scale my portfolio of work that I do. And it gives me a strong sense of happiness and fulfillment when I'm able to lend a hand in a very small way, if possible, to somebody so that they can get closer to their aspirations and dreams. And it could be done in a variety of ways. Just going out there, having a coffee chat with a young kid who's interested in STEM, but is a little unsure of what that means. And a 30-minute coffee chat could make a huge difference to somebody's life. If you're looking at something that's much bigger than that, sharing your life experiences, your personal stories on how did you make your career choices? What were the various variables that you had to think about? Was there too much strategy involved? Was it going by the flow, looking at opportunities that came across your way? I think those are the personal, intimate stories that people can share to make a broader impact in the community. And I think just being on your podcast, that's one way in which you can reach a wider audience and cascade this message saying, hey, it's very important to not just look at our STEM careers, but look about what can we do to make this a stronger, more cohesive and collaborative community.
I was just at a recent Women's International Day event. I'm sure you saw some in your area of the country. There were females of all ages there. I think the youngest I saw, actually, there were some kids there too. So I think I saw from ages 6 to 60. And it was really encouraging to see all levels. It wasn't just about coding. There was also some engineering activities, bringing their daughters, bringing their sisters, their nieces, all of these girls to these kinds of events is really important, I think. So whether or not somebody is a father, an uncle, a brother, I think we need to encourage people to participate and just explore some of these events, even if it's, let's say, more geared toward boys. I told the story on the keynote panel that I didn't even feel like a girl growing up because my dad treated me the same as my brother. When I wanted to learn how to learn Morse code and get my amateur radio license, I did that. When we built our first computer, we did that together. I had the luxury that my dad worked for IBM and we had computers and things around, but when I asked for a DOS and a BASIC manual, he brought those home. And so it doesn't matter whether or not somebody's playing with Legos or even now Goldie Blocks or something else. I think that we need to really encourage people to explore at all levels. So I really want everyone who's listening, as a technology leader, you should be doing that. And it doesn't mean that they have to be in a computer science degree. So I know you and I both come from a computer science degree. So what other areas are you encouraging this next generation to go into? You talked about the narrow versus the broad. So where are you steering folks to?
First off, Cassie, it's very impressive that you and I have a similar upbringing where our parents were visionary enough to give us more opportunities irrespective of our gender. So I really wanted to thank your parents for doing the same. And going back to a point about the STEM broad jobs and the narrow jobs, here's my thinking, Cassie. If you look at my background, I started as an engineer and then moved on to being a technologist and now into business management. And for these last few years, I've looked at what's making me who I am, what's defining me. It's the strong skills that I've learned through my background. And these are transferable skills. So for example, it's your critical thinking. It's your ability to approach a problem in a different aspect. So those are the skills that really help you shine irrespective of what your education experience is going to look like. So that goes to say that you don't have to follow the traditional path, as I mentioned before, of being in computer science in order to code or in order to create an app of some kind. It could be as basic as playing with a Lego, as you rightly pointed out. It's how do you approach a problem? It's how do you think through things? How analytical are you? There are different mechanisms of projecting it, either through coding or through building blocks, doing a hackathon, or being more of a strategist, trying to see how the 21st century is going to evolve and how technological components can interact to make our life easier. So there are several ways of doing this. And one thing that I would like to emphasize to our listeners out here is you no longer have to have a specific degree in order to get a career or an education out of it. There are several paths, for example, on-demand courses, boot camps, just learning from others who have done it, and you can still be successful. So you no longer have to have certain privileges in life. And unless you create those barriers within yourself, this goes to say that you can really make a career out of your interests and learn things either by looking into people or resources or trying to find groups who have similar interests and then building a career out of that.
I completely agree. Just a few weeks ago, my 12-year-old daughter and I developed our first set of lessons on the Arduino kit. And that was a lot of fun. I got to show her programming and some hardware and understanding the basics. And so I hope everybody takes that opportunity. Tell me more about what you're doing at the U.S. National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, Medicine. What kind of projects or initiatives are you working on that are exciting you today?
Absolutely, Cassie. And before that, I would like to share a simple story around the Arduino kits. My younger sister, she majored in computer science and studio arts. And it was kind of interesting to see how probably I call myself the Gen Y, looking at how Gen Z is actually evolving. And she was playing with these Arduino kits where she was creating different kinds of lights that would react based on body temperatures. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. That's another way in which you're looking at putting your STEM skills into practice. And she was looking at it from a very artistic perspective. But when you see these different ideas, you feel the world has a lot more to offer, and it's not just the traditional ways of doing certain things. So I thought it was interesting that you've been dealing with Arduino kits as well. So talking about my work at the academies, we've been looking at ways to embrace cloud. So some of the projects that I'm working on is how do we consolidate our technological roadmap and look at ways in which we can streamline our business processes, which ties with the mission of the institution to provide timely, cost-effective, efficient research on various aspects of science.
And the cloudification, do you find that your business leaders are familiar with the topic? I mean, the word cloud is a few years old, but really understanding the concepts, because I know I'm working a lot of moving on-premise to cloud and that understanding, well, you can't do it all offline. This isn't client-server technology. So where do you find you're having to do those teaching moments?
So let's talk about this in general, Cassie. The biggest asset of any technologist is helping your business understand what technology is capable of. How can technology be adapted to meet your business needs? And this requires a lot of education and awareness to your leadership about what are the benefits. So it's not always technology-based is what I see. When I work on projects, my general approach, this again goes back to my engineering problem-solving approach, is what are the needs of the institution? What problem are we trying to solve? And then trying to see what technology and what systems should be put in place to support the needs of the business, to support the needs of the institution and the mission of the organization. And not just cloud. When you look at any aspect where a technology piece comes into existence, there are a lot of different parameters for consideration, which includes, is this the best technology? How do we incorporate this into the culture? How do we communicate this technology in the most effective way so that people understand this is not technology for the sake of technology, but this is making their life easier. This is streamlining the workflow that they have. And those are interesting educational opportunities that happen in every aspect. And in technology, it's more pronounced because it involves a lot of effort, time, and money.
Priyanka, what are your projects that you have on the horizon that you're looking forward to?
So at work, we do have this cloud-based model that we're looking at. So that's going to keep us excited for the rest of the year. And as part of my professional aspirations, I'm looking at ways in which we can enable the upcoming workforce to be more trained and more adaptable to the needs of 21st century, which involves a lot of partnerships by bringing in communities that are focused on growing talent in STEM, partnering with organizations that care about STEM, and then looking at institutions that produce research on these lines and how all of these different constituents can work together for the better interest of the community and the nation. So most of my work is aligned on those lines with my upcoming talks at various organizations focused on sharing my experiences in STEM and making STEM more accessible for the younger talent, and especially for non-traditional women as well, because I've been meeting a lot of women who want to be interested in technology, but then still are trying to navigate around it. So what are some ways in which I can pull together the resources and share my time to help them get to the next level? Those would be things that would continue to excite me for the rest of the 2017. And let me emphasize on one more aspect, Cassie. We talk a lot about bringing in more female talent into STEM. I strongly believe in the fact that men are crucial to the success of women, and men have to be allies in our conversation because they obviously hold doors to more leadership opportunities and to help support and mentor us. And this has to be a conversation that happens with both sides coming together. In all these events that I go and speak about, I see a lot of men who advocate for women, and I want to make sure we continue this momentum to make this world a better place for all of us, at work, at the personal front as well.
Absolutely. And at that event I was just at, there were so many men there. It was incredible to see. And I know at Grace Hopper Conference, they are definitely supporting. And like I said, my father was such a role model in that. And I've been fortunate. I have not felt any discrimination. I've been in an environment for such a long time where I've been one of the few females. And I really think that a diverse team is the best. Diversity in race, in gender, just in all sorts of diversity. So I hope that everybody continues and can do something to support that. I think it's important for all of us, men and women.
That's a great point, Cassie. And I would add one more aspect of diversity, which is thought diversity. We need a lot of different ideas, different perspectives. That's when we would really make a difference and be great role models for the next generation.
And I think that plays a lot, especially I've been in global teams for such a long time. I guess it comes automatically because I love the different thought diversity because we're coming from just different upbringings, different ideas. It really is encouraging. So I really hope that people consider that aspect. Perfect. How do people reach out to you if they have questions or want to meet you?
I'm based out of DC. I'm in the nation's capital. You can contact me through my about.me page, the link which will be available on the website for this particular podcast. And there are several ways I'm available on all social media channels. And feel free to reach out to me, tweet to me, and I'd be more than happy to respond.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Cassie, for the opportunity and for bringing in leaders from different geographical locations and different perspectives as well. You're doing a great job, and I'm so happy to be part of your show today.
I want to thank you so much for listening today. If you love this podcast, please do share it with your friends and colleagues, and please leave a review on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher because it makes a difference for circulation. For the show notes and other great info, enter your email into the mailing list at techleaderstoday.com. Thank you.